Okay, so I'm going to sort of recap my Welsh Championship meet. So 5th meet of this season, 5 meets deep. Managed to get a new season's best, so some good things to take away, but there's a lot of sort of things that I feel like didn't go well, so I'm going to sort of just discuss everything, and I'll try and keep it sort of brief and not yap too much, because I feel like I have a tendency to yap in this sort of like end part of the video. So yeah, down to Wales. So I got the train down on the day, drove to Birmingham the day before. That was like a 4-hour journey to Birmingham. Stayed there, then got a 2-hour train journey, which ended up being I think like 2.5-3 hours, because the train got kind of cancelled halfway through the journey, which was not ideal, but it is what it is. Just have to kind of, you know, take these things on the head and try not let it affect you too much. But yeah, still managed to get there with plenty of time. I think I had like maybe 2 hours, maybe an hour and 50 minutes from when I got there. Not ideal, but you know, better than nothing. So yeah, that was, you know, the journey there. Then on the day, just kind of felt a bit flat warming up. There wasn't really like a dedicated warm-up area, which, you know, really threw me off. I had to just warm up at the side of the track, and then a big part of my warm-up is doing like block starts, and there wasn't any blocks to do block starts with. The only time that I managed to get blocks was when I was actually running the race, which, you know, it's just not ideal, not what you really want. But I suppose like everyone's in the same boat, but I didn't really have like a, I guess like a contingency plan for what I would do if there isn't blocks to use in my warm-up. So I just did some 3-point starts. I did like a 10, I think it was 1 10 meter, 2 30 meters, and then a 20 meter fly. So like a 3.10, 3.30, 3.30, and then a 20 meter fly, like 50 meter flying sprint. So that's what I did for the warm-up. And then, you know, going in, I hadn't done block starts, and I've been to the stadium once before, and I guess I thought they were just going to kind of like let us use the back half of the track, but they I don't know, they just didn't have anywhere. I don't know if there was like a football pitch around the corner that, you know, had everything, but didn't do any block starts before my runs, which, as I say, it's a big part of my warm-up on the day, so that just wasn't ideal. But everyone was in the same boat, so ended up running 11:14 for the first race with a perfect plus 2.0 wind. I was sort of like disheartened by it. It was just like, you know, I feel like I'm capable of like so much more, but it's, you know, it is what it is. You just got to kind of take these things on the head. So that's what I did. I didn't take any caffeine beforehand, and as I say, like, my warm-up was kind of like thrown off. I just didn't really feel amazing in general, but that's just kind of, you know, just what happens, right? You just have to kind of keep your head and keep composed. I wasn't even sure if I was going to make it into the semi-final after that performance, but I did manage to barely scrape through. I was 24th ranked going into the semi-final, and there was only 3 semi-finals, so I was like, you know, barely scraped in, which I was very happy with. You know, after like finding out I'd barely got in, I was happy with that, happy to get another run. So I took my caffeine, and then I just sort of like warmed up maybe like half an hour out from the semi-final. There was sort of like a 1 hour, maybe 1 hour 10-minute break between my semi-final and my heat, so I didn't really need to do like a full warm-up again. It was just going to be a few kind of like strides and then some skips. And then I think I did 1 or 2 3-points on the track over like 10 meters, just to kind of like make sure I had that kind of like that warmness and that kind of hype feeling. But then I could feel the caffeine starting to kind of kick in, especially like 20 minutes beforehand. I could really feel my heart starting to beat, and I had that kind of like hype and that kind of like just, you know, really like ready to go. That's all I can really describe it as. Like, I was really ready to just run fast. And I certainly did that. So I ran 11.01, which is a new season's best by 600ths. So 11.01 plus 0.0 wind. That's my 3rd race this season with a plus 0.0 wind. So technically, if I put it through the wind calculator, it would be a 1091 plus 2 wind. But 11.01 with like no wind, I'll take it. It's an improvement certainly, and it's a big improvement from the first round. It's 0.13 quicker with way less wind. So yeah, happy with that performance. I think there's definitely positives to take away, and I think there's like things that I know I can work on. I think my biggest issue has just been kind of keeping a consistent schedule, and I guess like peaking at the right time. Like, I feel like my peaks have came at sort of like weird times. Like I felt really good earlier in the week on the Monday, but then obviously the week goes by and then I just didn't feel as good. And I don't know if it was maybe I'd not done enough volume, maybe I'd done too much volume. I don't know, it's hard to kind of like know, but I think I have an idea of what I want to do for my next sort of training cycle, so I will sort of fill you in with that when in the next video, I guess. But that's my thoughts on the competition. Overall, wasn't too bad, did get a season's best, so can't complain too much, but definitely know there's some better times on the rise. So that is going to be it for this video, so thank you for watching. Yeah, so as I sort of discussed there, my plan was mainly just to try and get some good consistent training in, good quality training in, and the week after the Welsh Champs was actually one of my best session this year so far, and what will be most likely my best session of the year. Managed to drop a really solid training 100. I think it was like 11.07 no reaction time, which is, that's a personal best training 100, which is a great sign, especially considering that's from a 3-point start, and in the past it's been from blocks. That was my last 100 meter training PR was from blocks and training. So yeah, just nice to finally break that old personal record. And as well, when I did run, I think it was 11.09 in training, it was on like a really windy day, so the wind was definitely not as much of a factor on that day compared to obviously when I ran it 2 years ago now. So yeah, nice to kind of break an old PR like that in training. I feel like definitely my consistency this year has been very, very good, and I've consistently dropped good times. I've just not really had that kind of breakout time where you all of a sudden then see your times kind of dropping quite quick. But it is what it is, just have to be patient with this season, patient with how things go. So yeah, that was kind of how things were going. One thing I would say about this new training cycle that we started was that I think it was slightly too intense, and I could feel it because by the time I got down to the Wednesday, which was kind of like my last sort of hard session of the week, my week sort of ran from, I guess, like Saturday through to Wednesday, and then it was kind of like back down to the Saturday session being kind of the start of the week essentially. So it was much fresher on the Saturday, and then by the time I got to the Monday, I obviously did another pretty hard session. I think it was 2 sort of quite hard, really intense sessions, and then by the time I got to the Wednesday, I was just kind of like very spent. I could feel the fatigue. Like typically I would say the fatigue just feels like things, it feels like you're not able to hit positions that you can hit and you have hit in training and in competitions, and that's kind of the only way I can really describe it, is just like you're not able to get to that level. And sometimes you can have that fatigue and then there'll be something to maybe help push you through. Maybe someone comes and like watches, you're maybe training with someone that can help kind of push you through those sort of like flat points in training. But I would say typically it's hard to push through that. You can't kind of like put more effort in because you're fatigued. You're not going to be in a good state always, which fatigue, as I've mentioned I think many times this year, fatigue is not necessarily the enemy, because obviously we need to unload from our training, and if we are obviously like always fatigued, that's not good. If we're obviously always too fresh, that's also not a good thing. There's it's the right balance. It's always the thing that you have to chase, and it's being fatigued when you need to be fatigued, and then being fresh when you need to be fresh. And that's kind of that's the overarching goal, I guess, for sprinters, is to be fresh in competition, and I guess not worry too much about it if you are feeling fatigued during training sessions that are not too close to competition. There we go. Watch where you're throwing. And then finding a way to kind of like lighten the load a little bit. So that's what I did on this day. Did some blocks because I was competing on the Tuesday, so this was the Saturday. This was actually a session after work, and I ran like reasonably well in this session considering it was like straight after work. Like typically I'll be like on my feet all day in work, and that does not lead to a very, very productive session, a fast session, but this session was actually not bad at all. I guess I can't really complain too much. I think I ended with, I think it was 4:12 to maybe 4.1 seconds for the 30 without a reaction time, which all things considered is like, I'd say like slightly above average. Like if I can get into the 4.1s, like low 4.1, that's kind of a slightly above average time. Maybe erring on the side of like average. But I think this year I've certainly not focused on doing blocks in training as much, because I feel like my acceleration has naturally been, just quite good always, and I've always been, quite good out of blocks ever since indoors 2023. I've just kind of like had that pop out of blocks. It just seems to be kind of the max velocity side of things that just hasn't seemed to click anytime this year, anytime last year. It did feel like it was good indoors, I would certainly say, like 2023 indoors, but I just haven't seemed to get back to that kind of mindset, that form yet. But I think the main thing is just kind of having a day, having a breakthrough, and then, carrying that momentum through into the off season. So I've currently got 2 more meets left this year, so hoping that I can, drop some good times. If not, back to the drawing boards, and I will, figure something out hopefully for the 2025 season. But yeah, just gotta kind of always believe in yourself. I know it's kind of like corny to say, like cringy to say maybe, but that's kind of that's just what you've got to do really. You just got to believe in yourself and have the confidence that you can get back to those kind of levels. So yeah, this was the meet that I was running at, and nice little season's best, 10.97. So each race of the year I've kind of continued to chip away a slight bit, and as I say, my consistency this year has definitely been the best it's ever been. Like if I just kind of like add all my times up and average them out, even like including windy times, yeah, consistency is like leagues ahead of where it was last year, where it was the year before that. So yeah, as I say, just kind of waiting for that one day where things seem to click, and hopefully that'll be soon. So yeah, I'll maybe kind of recap the races quickly. So yeah, 10.97, was happy to run that time. And one thing I'd say is I got out, like I didn't get out amazingly well, but I was kind of like in the lead, and then it was just, as I say, the max velocity, which just seems to always be the issue for me, or at least as of recent it's always kind of been the issue. And then yeah, speed endurance as well probably wasn't great, but I would still say max velocity is more the area that I could be better at, because I feel like if my max velocity is better, then my speed endurance will kind of get pulled up, just from the max velocity being better. You're kind of decelerating from a faster speed, so it kind of will just drag the speed endurance along, or that's at least my sort of theory. So it will be interesting to test that out, I guess, when I do start to drop some quicker times. But yeah, that was it. And then race number 2, I was actually feeling really good, because race number 1, 10.97, that's actually a race 1 of the day, like first race of the day, wind legal PB. So felt really good, felt like I was going to run quicker in race 2, but it then got quite dark and it had gotten a bit colder. I think it was like 14-15 degrees out maybe, and it was like no wind as well, so a 1.8 wind compared to a plus 0.1 wind. And that, on top of that, I also false started my first race. Like I felt like I was quite locked in, and then I just false started for some reason, and that kind of threw me off. They allowed me to then race again, which was nice of them, because I'd travelled down from Scotland to London, which is like a 350 mile journey just down to London, and then another 350 miles back home. So yeah, they let me race again, and 11.08, so not amazing, but again, consistency's there, and it was a decent time considering the conditions and the fact that I'd been disqualified and had to race in the race after my original race. But yeah, that's been it for this video. It's been quite a long video, so I appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for the final few videos of the season, and then I'll get into the off-season training after that, which I think I am looking forward to. I feel like if I can have a strong finish, then I can go into the off-season with a different mindset compared to last year, having had a quite disappointing season. So yeah, just gotta kind of keep my hopes up, keep my head up, and yeah, just believe in myself. That's it.